What did you see down the street that way?
Nothing. It's just a cop car blocking off the road. Yeah. Yeah, just a couple of minutes ago, that was the first time we had seen some people passing this kind of the white sign in the middle of the road that has kind of been symbolic of the border of CHOP here at 10th and Pine for a couple of weeks now. We saw some people walking past. That was your question. Are pedestrians being blocked now from going into that area? They walked up to a certain point, and pretty quickly those officers moved a bit forward to the intersection there that you can see and told them to start backing up, backing away, and they did, and that was the end of that kind of meeting between the police and those few people, just a couple of people who were walking towards them. We've seen some cars come in rather quickly at the intersection where we are. This is kind of the cutoff point, and as far as the vehicles are allowed to go, some people coming in here saying, I can't get into a building, I can't get up to some of the areas that are now blocked off from where those police are. Just a block south of us on Pike, I can tell you we can see patrol cars are there as well, blocking the intersection, so it looks like you're not able to make it up the street from that point too. We're seeing some more people starting to just kind of walk around. We haven't seen anyone from the other side of Cal Anderson Park. Matt mentioning that there are about 50 tents out in that area. No one from over there coming over here to where we are with these officers. Most of Cal Anderson Park, the front section of it at least, cleared out completely, and a lot of those, as you saw, those concrete barriers have been cleaned out. We've also been watching officers up the street beyond that line that you see that they have formed. They have been going through the area where those tents, about those 20 tents or so that Matt was estimating that are still around the East Precinct, going through some of the areas up there. Again, remember, they are handling several investigations right now as well for rape, assault, burglary, and those two fatal shootings as well. So they seem to be going through some of the materials that are still strewn about outside the East Precinct, almost a second kind of perimeter around the precinct itself. You have the officers, and then inside that you have the more defined border that the remaining protesters set up after those concrete barriers were moved out, after we were hearing even yesterday a lot of the protesters had left, that they were condensing those who were left to really surround the East Precinct and come to that point, saying even their own CHOP security teams weren't going to be patrolling anymore in Cal Anderson Park. They were all going to basically be focused around the East Precinct. So this is where we're seeing everything converge. The remainder of the majority of the protesters, they are set up there. That's why you see so many tents. That's why you see the plywood and the other signs that are up there too. A lot of that has been moved in to surround the East Precinct here on Pine. Really in just the last 24 hours or so, even more than it had been over the last couple of weeks. So really no one at the south end where we are. Again, this is the direction police had been telling people, had been tweeting out that if you were in the area and you needed to get out, head this direction. We aren't seeing that, and even farther up, just east of the precinct, we see that there are more officers standing up at that point blocking the intersection, but that's up where the fire department is, and we're not seeing anyone up there as well beyond the officers who are just holding that line at that other intersection. So it's pretty quiet where we are right now, at least. Back to you. Yeah. Well, that's what really we have no one who has been standing around us. If you were with us just after 5 o'clock this morning, we spoke to Deborah, who was in one of those tents, and she came out, and she really was the only person we saw when we got here. And since we've been here now for about 40 minutes or so, there is really no one else who is standing with us beyond other media at Pine and about 10th. No one else is on the street. We've had a couple of people come by, as I mentioned before, yelling, saying if you have an apartment in the area, close your windows, run your AC, put your gas mask on. We don't see any need for any of that right now, any indication anything is going to happen. We hear some yelling up on the police line. We can't really make out what they're saying, but it doesn't seem to be directed at anyone in particular or any threat that they're dealing with right now. So the road, as you see, leading up to us is, as maybe as a shot we kind of pull out just a little bit to show you as far as we are, it really gives you a sense of what we're seeing out here is at least there really is no one else out here right now. We've had a couple of people come by, but really that's it. Yeah. Back and forth. Yeah.
Okay, a couple of things. Most of those protesters are probably still inside because I went and looked on the other
Inside
side,
their tents or inside
the precinct area because there's about at least minimum 100. Okay.
up
But
there
there's only a handful that are
on the other
outside.
side?
Also, that man, the black man, that just walked through
Mhm.
here. But the black man that just walked through, he's a self-appointed leader. He's the one that yells and hollers. He hit a white man. He hit a woman yesterday. Oh no, he normally is strapped with guns.
Yeah.
See, he's coming out like a weenie right now. He just walked past all y'all. He's the one with
He's the
black.
one. Yeah, he drove up in the black car here.
That seems right. Yeah. All he would ever do is yell and scream. And I went to his face one day when I said, "Why did you just hit that white man?" I said, "If it had been a black man that had been hit, y'all would have had a riot." I said, "I don't appreciate you hitting that white man in the face and all that." But anyway, yeah, he's one of the. He's yelling now. He's the one yelling now. But yeah, if you need something,
Okay.
they're probably going to the park. But on the other side, I just was trying to let y'all know there's maybe a better view. I don't know what you're looking for, but like I said, there's only like a handful out there.
We actually have another reporter over there too. I'll let them know.
They're doing this, so just imagine you got police officers right here blocking the street because that's how I came out, and I asked them kindly, "Where do I go?" And then the protesters road blocked.
Yeah. Okay.
One of them is on the street.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
Guys, we're hearing flashbangs. We just had the first flashbang. Yeah. Hang on, I'm going to run in front. do you want to come over to the park a little bit?
Arrested up there.
Where? Who?
Right there by the truck, they're arresting some lady.
Okay, why don't you stand on that? They're going into the park too. Jim, they're going into the park.
Okay. They got somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it certainly picked up just a couple of minutes ago. You can see those officers advancing straight toward us with their batons out, and we were seeing a woman being arrested up at the corner there, as you saw earlier. We also just heard our first flash bang just a couple of minutes ago, and from where we are, we can see officers are also now moving in a line across Cal Anderson Park. Jim or Louie, you might be able to pan over to the park itself. That's where we still have about 50 tents. Okay, so I want to listen to the officers as well. We want to be respectful. So they are telling us now to move back. Our cars are parked here, but we are moving down Pine and 10th. They've stopped exactly right where our cameras are. We're listening to their instructions, and they're setting up a line in a perimeter here at Nagel and Pine. And we're just waiting to see if there's any other instruction that they want to give us. There are a few people here with us, but not a lot of people who are out here. We also see officers basically staged in a line out on Cal Anderson Park. They're telling some people to move back even farther. A block away, we can see other Seattle Police office cruisers. They're coming in as well. And we're just waiting for either other instructions. They're saying we're good here, okay.
Yeah, they're moving more.
And we can see the bicycle cops just beyond them going over to Pike, just south of us. There were about a dozen officers over there. And we're seeing a line of officers again over at Cal Anderson Park, where they had cleared out a lot of those tents just in the last 24 hours or so. The perimeter of the CHOP itself really shrinking down to the East Precinct itself. It seems they have moved out from the East Precinct and fanned out from there and are just moving a little bit further and a little bit farther, and possibly going toward, as we said, about 50 tents that are still on the exterior line of Cal Anderson Park, just on the north end of the park. But we can also probably from this line give you a clearer look at the East Precinct for the first time. We can show you that concrete barriers, those are still up around the East Precinct. It looks like some materials have been cleared out, but a lot of officers still up there. We have more cruisers coming in from the east side of the precinct, coming down the hill with their lights on. And again, the line of officers, several dozen officers now moving through Cal Anderson Park in a straight line down the road itself too, with their vehicle. They're on a loudspeaker. I think they're telling people to start to leave. Let me put my earpiece for a second so I can try and hear what they're saying. But they're certainly on the loudspeaker telling people to get out of the area. Again, that was the order that they had issued at about 5 o'clock this morning, giving people several minutes to pack up and get out, and some people did. Those who left said a lot of people who are still here were digging in and they weren't going to leave. One woman I spoke to estimated there were still maybe about 100 people who were around the precinct itself. She says she'd only seen a few people follow those orders, leave the precinct area and head south. But again, where we are, we don't see a lot of people out here. We don't see a large crowd. We don't see any interaction with police at this point, and it seems, again, as they've fanned out from the East Precinct in a line, every line of where they are right now, it seems they have stopped. And now they're advancing again over at Cal Anderson Park, getting closer and closer to the tents over there. I think we can show you that from our photographer Louis, who is showing that right now from the side where we are. We do have some more people showing up now behind us, so we're just trying to keep an eye on a 360 view of where we're standing right now. We do. Hey Jim, if you can point this direction behind me here. If you can show, we have a group of people here and we're right in the middle of it. This is the first confrontation we've really been seeing between people coming up to the line of officers. I can hear you.
I don't care what you say, but it's not trespassing if we're on public property.
Again, it seems officers brought in a lot of their equipment and their officers to the East Precinct, and from there fanned out to set up their own perimeter. We have bike cops now coming down to reinforce the officer line that we see right where our cameras are. Jim, if you can point up the street, you can see the bicycle officers are now coming up. It seems they're fanning out from the East Precinct to try and set up a perimeter, heading out again, yes, to those tents at the end of Cal Anderson Park. Everything behind the officers leading up to the East Precinct is now clear. It doesn't seem there's anyone behind this line, that they have set up a strong line on the south end and the north and the west corners of the precinct itself. That
vehicle pull up as well, and so it looks like the Seattle Department of Transportation is coming with more equipment and resources to do some of the work that needs to be done out here. We also see some city crews moving trash cans. Brian, if you pan to your right here, we see some city crews moving trash cans as well, and so some of these trash cans have been graffitied, and so unclear if this came from inside the CHOP area or if this is regular work actually, but a lot of activity is happening out here, and you can see officers are continuing to work to remove the metal pins and bolts from the road here. And this is another development. They have removed that sign that said "Welcome to CHOP," and getting this neighborhood back to what it once looked like. And here's another SDOT vehicle that just pulled in. This is the second Seattle Department of Transportation vehicle that has pulled in here in the last minute or two, and they are clearly getting ready to assist Seattle police with some of this work. You usually don't see officers working on road work here and getting bolts out of the road, and so clearly Seattle Department of Transportation about to take over some of that work. We did see 2 people arrested here in the last 5 minutes or so, and the arrests seemed to happen fairly peacefully. 2 people were loaded up into a paddy wagon. We have seen multiple Seattle police paddy wagons here hauling people out, and we know about 15 people have been arrested so far this morning. Michelle Tracy? Sure.
brown. He has a brown mask. He was just giving me a whole bunch of shit. They go down there. Watch out for him.
Okay. Hey, they're going to go that way. Here we go. Here we go. We're moving. We're moving. We're moving back. We're moving back. Guys, you can take me now. Come on. All the way to Broadway. All the way to Broadway. Well, we're going to be at Broadway by that point. Yeah, you can see actually we are just feet away from the front line of where these officers are pushing us back now. They have told us as they were moving forward that we should push back all the way to Broadway, and that if we did not, if anyone stayed behind, that they did face arrest. So several times as they advanced to Nagel, just inching forward a couple yards, saying still move all the way down to Broadway, even though they were advancing slowly, telling everyone here to move all the way down to Pine and Broadway, which is where we are right now, with about a dozen people or so who have all moved back. So we're just at this front line right here. That. Go ahead. Well, there are two places to go from where we were before and showing you the line at 10th and Pine. Some of them took off to the left of us, heading toward Cal Anderson Park, as you heard Denise saying. Some of them reiterating to the crowd, we need numbers, we need to hold the line. So the few people you saw yelling at the officers, some of them went down Nagel to the left towards Cal Anderson Park, and the others are still with us here, just standing quietly at the corner of Pine and Broadway, backing all the way up as officers had instructed us to. So it's very calm right now. Most of the people who are standing with us actually are media. This was where we had an access point to stage and show you what's going on.
Is your mic still green or is it red?
It's still green.
Okay.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, you can see the line that officers are holding here at Pine and Broadway. Every now and then we do see a few dozen of the bike officers. They seem to be just patrolling inside this perimeter, going line to line, reinforcing the officers, making sure they're okay. Anytime there's any kind of flare up with anyone who is approaching the officers, the bike officers then suddenly show up as kind of reinforcement, and then they move on to the next line. But very quiet over here. These officers were originally at 10th and Pine, just about a block back toward the precinct. And then a couple of minutes ago, they had been starting to say, move back, go to Broadway. If you stay, you could be arrested. And very slowly they moved forward, and when they reached Nagel, which is a side street that kicks out to the side of Cal Anderson Park, some of the people who were gathered in front of the line of officers went down that way because, as Denise was mentioning, some had been saying, we need to hold the line, we need more people, and so they had headed that direction. But really, we are not seeing anyone come toward this line of officers or come out of the CHOP area up the hill behind us. Very quiet where we are right now, but you can see the equipment these officers are wearing. And just to reiterate, they have been tweeting out a lot of information this morning that they were saying the officers are wearing a higher level of protective gear. They're utilizing that equipment because individuals associated with the CHOP are known to be armed and dangerous and may be associated with shootings, homicides, robberies, assaults, and other violent crimes. That's the other part of this up at the CHOP itself, where that perimeter is still set up with some of those concrete barriers. They have several crimes to now investigate, as we've been seeing those officers go through what's been left up there. And remember, just a couple of hours from now, we were saying this morning, the CHOP leaders were the ones who were going to have a news conference and release a new list of demands and expectations they had for Mayor Durkin and the city in order for them to leave. So before they were going to release that list, they had said they wanted the media to be there at 11:30 this morning to say what they wanted. Hours before that, that's when we saw the mayor issue her own order and say, now is the time to get out of the CHOP, and you have a couple of minutes to do it. And then they started to move in. So here at Broadway and Pine, very quiet, not a lot of people. Back to you. Okay.
Dude, Brown thought I was with Fox News, and he got in front of the camera. He was flipping off the camera.
Was that the guy?
Yeah, the guy that I told you to tell Jim about. Anyway, finally,
He went away.
yeah, I was able to convince him to go.
I'm worried that my battery is good right now, but if we're going to be out here for hours, how are we going to handle all of this? I'm going to just say our car is now blocked